Magician. He set up for...
Oh no. I mean, we can hear Steve, but I'm not sure if the stream can hear Steve. So, hi guys, and welcome to this episode of Troy Needs is an Absolute Live Stream. Andy, this is starting off well.
Yeah, I'm literally listening to the intro go right now just to make sure that it's coming through. And yeah, we can't hear Steve on the stream. So, Steve, you should
Ooh.
work on that.
Hopefully they can hear us. If they can hear us, that's good.
There are some positives every once in a while.
Okay, positives.
But I can hear you on the stream, Christian, which is fantastic.
Great. Let's see if we can hear Andy on the stream.
Yeah,
Technical difficulties already.
It's fun listening to this in live. Oh no, you can hear me on the stream. Great.
Okay.
Great. We just can't hear Steve. Stevie. I'm gonna wait till you give us like the thumbs up because normally you figure out what's going on and you fix it pretty quickly. So I'm gonna let you figure that out. Christian, in the meantime, we've got another week of Troy Nunes is an absolute live cast. Steve is normally the host. He's also the producer extraordinaire, so he's fixing his audio right now. I'm Andy Pregler. I write... Nope. I write some football-related things for NunesMagician every once in a while and some Marvel things every once in a while. And then we have Christian, who joins us again, who does a little bit of everything. How you doing, Christian?
I'm doing pretty good, Andy, and as you can see, this is definitely not a Syracuse-related podcast by the things we are wearing on our shirts right now.
Yeah, this has, as Steve continues to work on the audio, Steve is rocking his Chelsea jersey, which makes me upset as an Arsenal fan since Chelsea are currently the champions of Europe for some goddamn reason that I don't understand.
Damn right we are. I think we got it.
Let this happen.
Somehow we got it?
I think we got it.
Okay, I'm going to give it a few minutes before, well, it's going to take a minute or two before you come through on the stream, but I trust you right now. You're the producer, you're the magic man. How you doing, Steve?
Oh, not too bad. Yeah, I was going to try and segue it into something happening in Syracuse sports, but there's been a whole lot of nothing going on. So today marks actually yesterday would have marked the first day something happened when we actually got a football commit, which is quite nice.
Yeah.
Kair Price? We'll go with Kair. Does that sound right?
I think we'll go with Kair, or something like that.
Yeah. You're talking to the guy who, like I said before the cast, you're talking to the guy who can't pronounce Chris Blash's name. I literally have it written there in phonetics because, got to make sure I actually get it right. But we'll wait for the pronunciation guide on that one. But a 3-star D end, so another solid commitment on the defensive side of the ball for the Orange. Good to see more in the fold. Good to see things kind of moving along those lines. Still mildly worried about the offensive side of the ball just because we haven't seen a ton. But, a 6'2", 225-pound guy from Jersey. So, solid get. Probably that nice tweener and outside backer that we've been, continually working on. So, can't really complain. I'll take him. He had a good offer list. Bunch of P5 schools, so sounds good.
Yeah, he's looking at an offer list of West Virginia, Boston College, Buffalo, Connecticut. Boston College and Connecticut were playing pretty much every year. West Virginia and Buffalo, contemporaries in different ways. So I like the fact that we were able to...
Maryland in there too, and Shianoville.
Oh, good old Rutgers. You've got a lot of good things. Pitt gave him an offer as well. He did not get a Duke offer, but he got interest from Duke, Minnesota, Nebraska, Ole Miss, Virginia Tech as well. So overall, again, it's nice to lock down a Jersey recruit that other people wanted, mostly because it feels like we've not been doing the best at that. We're getting Jersey kids that nobody else wants. So this is a nice change of pace. And Kair, we're gonna go with that. Kair, I hope that you enjoy your time.
Well, the big thing, like Steve said, is that the worrying thing, and that John pointed out in the commitment article as well, is that there's only one offensive recruit that is committed to the class of 2022, and that was the Quinn Allen running back from Millville, New Jersey, hometown of Mike Trout, as it is the MLB draft. So let's bring up some MLB stuff to tie it all in. But that was back on March 5th. So it's been quite some time since we've seen a actual guy on the offensive side of the ball join the Orange.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute. Now, thinking about that, though, we do have, with last year being the stupidity that it was, a lot of these guys having an extra year. So this recruiting cycle is kind of a weird one all around, where we have, like, running backs. I'm actually kind of surprised we snagged a running back because we have the depth at running back, and we have a lot of these guys that are going to have an extra year that don't necessarily need to backfill that position. The offensive line, we have 20 guys there right now. 19, because Pat Davis officially is not coming back. He is now going to join the Montreal Alouettes. So congrats to Pat. Phenomenal tweener between the guard and tackle positions, kind of the sixth man in for a lot of that line for the past couple of years at this point. But best of luck to him in the CFL. But, you know, there's a lot of these positions, you know, even the QB position. You've got DeVito, who's the locked-on starter, knocked on wood, you know, until Schrader says otherwise to me, he's the locked-on starter. He's got an extra year. Technically, he can come back next year if he wants. You've got Schrader, who has 3 years. You've got 4 years again for Morgan and Markevich. And then you have Lamson coming in. And there's also, one other in there somewhere. Not David Summers. He's gone. There's one other quarterback in the mix. I think he's a walk-on. Or he's a late scholarship player. But either way, there's 6 guys in the QB room. Like, what's enticing somebody to sign? Like, what was enticing Henry Beeline to sign?
Yeah.
Like, you've got bodies in front of you. You've got guys who have shown they can play at this level. You know, Morgan, for all of the ups and downs he had during his limited time, still showed that he physically can perform as a freshman at that level. There's a lot of question marks on it, but it's still something that it sticks out as, all right, am I going to come to sit behind 5 other guys? Or do I have a chance to beat out these 5 other guys, or what? So outside of maybe wideout, I don't really see too many spots where there's depth where we would expect to see people jumping at it. So.
And that's the big only like question area is the wideout position, because outside of Taj Harris and Anthony Quealy, there really hasn't been a guy yet to really step up and take the reins as a person who can be a guy that can say, hey, I'm going to be a go-to guy for a quarterback should you be needed. So and that's the only area where, again, guys might be a bit more enticed to come. But the other big thing is that, remember, the official visit dead period lifted on June 1st. So most of these guys are still taking official visits, and they're probably still scheduling a ton of official visits in order to really get a good feel on what school they want to go to. And that's why we saw that big, like, kind of lull between, like, late April and then the beginning of June. It's because people were waiting to make those official visits.
Yeah, it's a weird situation because you see like the big guys still picking up commitments because they're like people are going to commit to them no matter what. But these tweeners that we're on, I've used the term tweener at least 3 times in 3 different contexts today. But the guys that are kind of in that mix for the middle of the pack P5 schools, they are going to want to take the time and see where they're going. And now that that's an option, you know, it's not all gonna roll out immediately. So I would say we're looking at something soon of some more commitments rolling in, but I'm not holding my breath on it happening immediately.
Yeah, Syracuse is always going to be in the spot, though, too, because as Syracuse continues to try to climb out of the bottom pit of, you know, competing with G5 schools, this is like that next level of the evolution. And it's not pretty and it's not fun, but we can't necessarily grade ourselves against, Steve, like you said, those schools that get the commits, because they're going to always get the commits.
Yeah.
And we can't be a G5 school that locks in a lot of low 3 stars early just because we need to make sure that we have the bodies in as soon as possible. This is that awkward middle ground that you have to navigate as a a middling program that a lot of coaches supplement with grad transfers, and we've seen Dino not be hesitant at all to do that.
Right.
But we've also seen, cough cough, Kansas State, when you overly rely on grad transfers, you can get put into a situation where, well, I'm losing 35 bodies and I'm only allowed to bring in 25. All of a sudden, my roster goes from super deep to super thin in literally one cycle. So it's a tough thing to manage, and Syracuse definitively has the depth in the offensive class right now that they can probably take a cycle off, and if they need to supplement with grad transfers, they can. So I'm not especially worried. I am a little bit more concerned about the quarterbacks, just because we need to hit on one of those quarterbacks.
Right.
And all kidding aside, we can hope that DeVito is better than he's been at Syracuse so far because the offensive line is better, but we've yet to see anything outside of his freshman year in those limited starts that prove he can do that as a ceiling. So, always fun to talk about Syracuse football. The good news is that as you continue to tune into this show during the offseason, we will continue to find ways to talk about football because that's what we all live for. And you know what the crazy part is, guys? It's July 11th, which means that in a month we will be breaking down camp film and we'll be breaking down Stephen Bailey's cryptic tweets and posts about.
You said camp film.
You say camp film, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Steve and I don't even have a too deep to look at.
Yeah. Like we didn't even get that coming out of the spring.
I'm not talking about actual film. No, we're not talking about real film. We're talking about the 20-second social media clips that they'll post 4 of in a week, and that'll be our only look, and we have to extrapolate offensive line techniques from these social media posts. Because will we do that? Of course we're going to do that.
Who possibly would have taken a spring football trailer and broken it down frame by frame? I certainly was... Shit, I was that guy.
It's not like you wrote over 500 words on 50 seconds of spring. Oh wait, you did.
Yeah. And that's why we're all here.
Syracuse football.
This is why you tune in.
You know why we're also. You know why you're also here is because we are all wearing soccer jerseys, and there was another type of football that took place. And I'm sorry, England fans, it ain't coming home today. I just want to take a quick moment here. It's coming Rome. Italy wins in a penalty shootout. Is there any Syracuse ties to these? Jim Boeheim likes Italian food. That's close enough for me to say Forza Italy. They did a fantastic job in that game.
Ian McIntyre is English, and he has been crying.
That sounds right.
Poor Mac. I was in an English pub, and I watched with a bunch of people who started singing It's Coming Home when the game was going to penalties, and I wanted to point to them and go, I am a Syracuse football fan. There are just some things you don't do to court fate, and that was courting fate.
And anything involving England and penalties
I'm sorry for Italy, but we do have... No, God no. But you know what we do have to talk about? We have actual Syracuse soccer news on a lot of different fronts. Mm-hmm. The first is that if you are a U.S. men's soccer fan, tune in to the Gold Cup matchup because Miles Robinson is getting a cap. He's getting a starting cap for the United States as they take on Haiti in the opening round of the Gold Cup group stage. Steve, you and I have talked on this show and just on social media a bunch since Miles has been at Syracuse. He was drafted as a defender. He was always expected to kind of be decent with Atlanta. There was a lot of talk. I remember listening to a lot of podcasts talking about how Miles kind of was as complete of a prospect as you can get coming out of college.
Yep.
And he's dealt with a lot of coaching changes in Atlanta. He's dealt with a lot of fundamental changes to his game. Can you kind of talk about what's happened to him in the top? Like, what kind of a player was he at Syracuse, and what kind of a player is he now? Because I feel like they're two completely different human beings at this point in time.
Well, it's kind of funny because I think, how to put this? I think he's actually progressed to the player he was at Syracuse at the professional level, if that makes sense. So when he was playing at Syracuse, he was a bit of a ball hawk. Like he read the game very well. Played that right center back position for Mac. Kind of had a little freedom. Was usually the first person to the ball. Had a great eye for the game. Could distribute out of the back. He's when he first started in the league, you make that step up a level and things change, especially for defenders. Usually, young defenders have a much harder time making the adjustment, and as they age through, they progress. In MLS, they're seeing guys that are as good as the best guy they faced in college every single day. Miles, kind of over the last couple of years, has turned into and working behind Jeff Lorenowitz, or not behind, but in that back three with Jeff Lorenowitz and Leandro, the other center back for Atlanta for years before he left last year. Basically he developed his game and is now the man in Atlanta and is probably one of the best center backs in Major League Soccer. Likely getting looks from Europe. Who knows what? The rumor mill for the U.S. is just off the charts at this point. Everybody's signing everybody, and who knows what's going on. But enough that he got the call up to the Gold Cup. He actually got the call up, and actually the first U.S. goal for a Syracuse alum in the January camp, and he's worked his way into the starting spot for the Gold Cup and the conversation to be on the fringes of the A team for the U.S. For those who don't follow international soccer, this Gold Cup, the U.S. is kind of taking a B team, but behind, especially with Aaron Long out, behind John Brooks and a couple other guys in Europe, Miles is probably your top of the table that you're bringing from MLS. He really brings the stability, and him and I would assume, I haven't seen the lineups, but I'd assume Zimmerman's starting next to him.
He is, yeah.
Yeah, that easily is the top two center backs they brought to the Gold Cup, and I think that's a locked-on pair that should be solid for the U.S. moving forward. I did mention that Miles is the first U.S. player to score in a U.S. kit for as a Syracuse alum. Shout out to Patrice Bernier, who back in the day scored for Canada. So there's a lot of, as always, there's a lot of Canadian ties in Syracuse soccer, and I would say right now is there's no dearth of talent on the Canadian national team either. So it's not just Miles, but also Tajon Buchanan and Kamal Miller, who are firing it up at the Gold Cup, including Tajon having an assist today already. So
yeah, Buchanan and Miller both made the starting 11 for Team Canada. Canada is playing Martinique in their opening round, so not the strongest of challenges. But Canada has scored 4 goals so far. They're up 4-1. Tajon with an assist, and there's transfermarket.us for those who do not know. Is this big website that tracks basic transfer values, aka how much is a player worth in the open market. And they just updated their MLS player rankings. So for those, again, who are kind of new to the game, MLS runs on a very weird schedule. Most of soccer runs on a September to, depending on your country of origin, they'll play anywhere from May to June, their regular season. MLS is like, F that noise, we're going to play March to November. And therefore, a lot of sites that do these kinds of coverages, they do their MLS calendars in a little bit different ways. So Transfermarkt US just launched their 2021 updates, including MLS players. Tajon Buchanan was one of the top 5 MLS market increases. They estimate that Buchanan is worth $4.4 million in the open market. That is one of the top 25 highest MLS players available at the moment, which is absolutely absurd because Buchanan is definitively a late bloomer by soccer development standards. But there is a little bit of demand for Buchanan at this point in time. There's some talk that I'm looking at the article right now. Buchanan hasn't been officially linked to anything because, as Steve said, rumors with American nationals are very difficult to find. But there is some potential championship ties with former or with current Orlando City player Daryl Dike getting a run in the championship, doing really well. It's kind of reopening those second-tier English eyes to the MLS market, saying that there might be some value here. But again, it's absolutely crazy to me that we kind of talked about this a while ago, that Syracuse soccer went from this kind of program that existed to this program that did well at the collegiate level to, while the regular season success might not be there, they're churning out pro prospects. And we're now at the point where these pro prospects aren't just getting drafted in MLS Super Draft. They're actually doing something at the MLS level and getting looks beyond MLS, which is not something I ever thought that we'd be talking about with Syracuse men's soccer, period.
And that just goes to show you how much Ian McIntyre really changed that program once he came in. And it started with Alex Bono, and then you had Julian Boucher. Then the list goes on and on about the guys that he has now put through the Generation Adidas contracts and into the MLS. And now we're starting to see a bit of success with Buchanan. Ryan Raposo's getting some Canadian looks every now and then as well in the youth programs. And it's incredible to see that while Syracuse might have not been getting the results that they probably should have been getting in terms of the actual team, like the players are definitely making a ton of impact.
Yeah, no, it's to see Miles, on take transfer market for what it is, but to see Buchanan at $4.5 million and Miles at $3 and change, both getting looks from Europe. It's awesome to have ties to SU that are making noise. I know Buchanan. The strong rumor for a while was, I think there were a couple of Italian sides looking at him, and that the plan, or a couple of German sides too, but the plan was to pull the Alphonso Davies and take the right winger and turn him into a right wing back. And it seems just like the question is whether that was just, we have a Canadian winger that we want to buy. Do we just move him farther back the field? So it worked for Davies. I mean, he's doing phenomenal for Bayern. So why not?
That was more out of necessity for Davies because of
oh, absolutely, injury. Yeah.
But they got lucky. It worked.
Yeah, but at the same time with Davies, he still plays wing for the Canadian national team. Yeah. So it's like, do they do the same thing with even in like a 3-4-3? Do you make him Tajon a wide midfielder and increase the defensive responsibilities, but not have him just play up on the touchline like he did at SU? So.
And in all this conversation, the third player that we mentioned, Kamal Miller, which is actually, he's on the Canadian national team. He's 23 years old. He actually was just traded this offseason in what was relatively considered an overpay by Montreal, his current club. Miller started 2021 on Orlando City, was selected by expansion side Austin FC in the expansion draft, and then was immediately flipped to Montreal for $225,000 in general allocation money, a first-round draft pick, and another $50K in conditional general allocation money, which MLS salary cap, there's like 100 people in the world who actually understand how it works fully.
That's basically an overestimate for the record.
This is fake money that you only get... I know one of them very well. He's the broadcaster for Orlando City. He was explaining to me. I was going to say, Andy, you should have asked Andy. You should have asked Evan this weekend. It's like that's a perfect time to ask. Hey, can you explain that to us? Actually, I 100% did. We were trying to get one of our friends to become a Toronto FC fan because of Bono and Bradley, and it worked. He's all in on Toronto FC now. But we were talking about this trade. He's like, yeah, it's absolutely crazy that Kamal Miller basically got traded for what amounts to $275,000 of this very limited resource that you can use to basically expand your salary pool.
Right.
And
it's
Montreal was willing to basically pay more. Yeah, they're basically paying more they're paying more money to get Miller on the roster than they will actually pay him. Is it fake money? Yes, but that's money they could have used to sign somebody much better than Miller. So they very clearly have a high evaluation of him, or they don't have any other plan, and Miller was the key to kind of finishing out the team. Right. So it's nuts because, Steve, you've been following MLS for a while. Christian, you've been dipping your waters into MLS, and you grew up in Jersey, so you know all about Red Bull and their player development. The MLS is coming around to the idea that college players really aren't the key. They're really starting to get into their own academies. They're starting to develop their own players from the age of 15 and on. And to see these Syracuse collegiate players come out and be ready and have an impact is not something that very many other colleges can match. And I think it's, again, Christian, you said it, Coach Mack and the program that he's building is something special, even if the year in, year out results aren't necessarily, College Cup every other year. So,
yeah,
go Coach Mack. We got to get him on the show. Steve, I'm looking at you for that.
I got no strings to pull. I'll make some texts. I can't guarantee anything, but yeah, for those uninitiated, Andy tossed around a lot of acronyms. Well, no, he could have tossed around a lot of acronyms in GAM and TAM. The monopoly money that MLS uses, general allocation money and targeted allocation money end up reducing because unlike every other league in the world, there's a salary cap in MLS. They have created this monopoly money to reduce people's salaries that are above said salary cap down to something that fits into the salary cap. So as always, MLS is the whose line is it anyway of leagues where the points are made up and nothing matters. And it just it's a way to this all started with David Beckham back in the day with the designated players and all that kind of shit. It was just it gets more confusing every time they add to it, and it's
yes,
that's where it is.
Yeah.
No matter what, the fact that people are using this monopoly money to pay for Syracuse players is mildly amazing, and I'll take that any day of the week.
I'm very happy as well because, Steve, you made Whose Line Is It Anyway reference, and I am very, very happy for that.
It's been a long time since I've seen it, but it was always good.
It's always so good.
So,
well, for those of you who might be looking to get into soccer tonight, if you tune into FS1 now, they're going to start the pregame and kickoff for USA versus Haiti, and watching our boy Miles will be at 9 p.m. Eastern on Fox Sports 1. So as soon as this show is over, tune in, watch Miles hopefully do well against Haiti. The U.S., even with their B team, should probably do fine. But it'll be fun to see, and this has been a really fun soccer summer. I think it's given us something to do in the middle of the afternoon instead of having to stay up late for soccer games. I've really appreciated the Euros for that. And the EPL is going to be back sooner than you know it because I got the ESPN notification today that there's an Arsenal friendly sometime this week. So that's a thing that's happening. Scary. I'm not ready for that.
Soccer needs to practice his penalties.
But
too soon.
Yeah.
Too soon.
Real quick on that, Steve. Christian, we got to talk about this for a hot second. Steve knows this because he was there when I was given the opportunity to do a penalty shootout at the Syracuse soccer field at halftime. And Steve,
God.
I think my form could be described in a word as poor. That's probably.
Yeah, we'll go with that. We'll go with that. Your hips were all sorts of places they shouldn't have been. So.
Please tell me that there is video footage of this.
No, there's me and Gumby looking at it. Oh, does Gumby have video of that?
I can text him now and see if he has it. I don't know if there's permanent video. There was definitely a Snapchat video. I don't know if it ever got saved. It was bad. It was not pretty.
So what we could do is
what
we do on Twitter is we can compare the form. That's what we got to do on Twitter is compare the form between the England players and Andy. Perfect. Twitter content for days.
Yeah. That'd be something. Gumby, if you're listening, track that down.
I'm texting him right now.
Yes, there we go. This is what we want.
This is what you all come here to listen to.
It was really bad.
Oh, it was really
literally
bad.
I just sent him I sent him the text. We'll see what he comes back with.
Perfect.
I'm hoping the answer is no. I'm genuinely hoping the answer is no. But it was bad, and I feel bad for Saka. I feel bad for Sancho. I feel bad for Rashford because those are probably the three most talented England players, and the fact that they all got stonewalled was pretty disappointing. But I will say I appreciate Italy playing an open game, and I think that we've talked about this in our football coverage. Syracuse hasn't been in this position a lot, but prevent defense is just preventing you from winning the game. Like, you cannot bunker down and play prevent after the first 5 minutes of a game and expect to actually win it.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry, but that's just not going to be okay. Orange is the new fast, y'all. Speaking of Orange is the new fast, Syracuse sports, we should probably get back on track to that. Why would we ever do that?
No.
There wasn't a ton else to talk about in football this week. There wasn't a ton of basketball news. We had a bunch of player profiles. But Stephen, Christian, I want to bring up to you guys a question that I was getting a lot this weekend. My friend Evan had his bachelor party this weekend, so we got together a bunch of Syracuse alumni who all went to school during the Doug Marrone, Scott Schaefer handoff, and we've all been a little scarred by football. But we all continue to follow it relatively religiously. We're not Gerg scarred, okay?
No, that was
some
me.
of those that have been scarred by Gerg.
I was on the hill during the Gerg era, so
I just call myself Villanova scarred. That's what I call myself.
fair enough.
It's fair enough.
So we all have
but
different
we were
versions.
having the conversation this. Yes. And we were having the conversation of what is the Syracuse floor and what is the Syracuse ceiling. And I have talked myself into the floor. The floor is 0 wins. There is a very clear path to going 0-12. It's not great, but it's there. Now the question becomes, what is the ceiling? And not the question of what is the most likely outcome, because I think the most likely outcome is a very different question. But what if everything breaks right? What is the best that Syracuse can do? And I am planting my flag on 6 wins. The ceiling is 6 wins. And that's going to upset a lot of people, because I do think that there is a bull or bust mentality among a not insignificant portion of the fans. So, Christian, I saw your very large exhale when I asked for a ceiling, not prediction. But looking at Syracuse's schedule, looking at the talent that Syracuse has returning, if everything goes right, best case scenario, how many games does Syracuse win this year?
I want to hedge and say 7, but that's like, again, that's like saying everything goes right. And I think, like, you can make an argument for 7. You won't be able to go much further beyond that, but I think you can say, if everything goes right, I think you take the first 4, even against Liberty. I think if everything goes right, you beat Liberty, because behind Malik Willis, it's not that much of a good team. And then you win the entire non-conference, and then you can make an argument for Wake Forest, Boston College, and Pitt.
Yeah.
I think that's where you go, and then maybe one of those ACC games can get a little dicey. So.
Right. The heavy coin flips. Yeah,
the heavy coin flips. If NC State wasn't on the road, I'd hedge a little more towards that as well. But other than that, I think 7's a good ceiling.
That's about where I mean, I pulled it up just to have the sanity check on it.
Yeah,
Ohio,
me too.
yeah, Ohio, yes. Rutgers, possible. UAlbany, yes. Liberty,
You'd hope so.
as you said, possible. Again, you have Malik Willis, effectively their team, against a experienced linebacking core who has played them before, and I could see that working out. And you have even though they're young. What's up?
Remember in the Liberty game last year, Willis didn't beat them. It was their rushing attack that beat them. Willis was bad in that game.
So we have, and that was what, 2nd game of the year or 3rd? It was early.
It was like the 4th or 5th.
Was
it was after the Duke game. Yeah. It was the 5th game. It was after the Duke game.
It was, yeah. I'm thinking 2 years ago when it was early because I was camping during it. Yeah.
Yeah, when we were at Liberty and Hughes Freeze was up in the booth up there on the bed because he was sick, giving the thumbs up.
So the Liberty game was one of the games that Tony White said in the off-season press conferences.
Let the guys do his thing.
He went to the guys and said that. Exactly.
Yeah. So if he lets them loose, and it seems by the end of the year he had the confidence to let them loose, that could that's very conceivable. So, at best you're 4-0, and it's not out of the realm of possibility coming out of the non-conference. FSU, no. I mean, if you're a betting man, no. Wake home, yeah. Clemson,
I've seen crazier things with a first-year starter at center.
fair. Vatek, not likely.
It is a Friday night game, so
Ooh.
God knows.
And a Friday night game the second week in October. I think we've seen this before. Vatek, not likely. Away.
At Lane Stadium, no.
Yeah. BC, yeah. At Louisville, the at
Cunningham.
being the at being the very operative, like, at home, maybe you could see the possibility for something, but away, no.
We saw what happened last year when we went to Louisville.
Fair enough.
And the beige color pants can only describe so much.
Yeah. Then at NC State, which you already talked about, Christian, and then home against Pitt. So yeah, 7 seems to be where it is, and like that 5. We've talked about it ad nauseum on this podcast. Like that 5-7. Your Dino's fine. Everything's moving in the right direction. Things are going positively. I don't need a bowler bust. Like, I need a team that looks like they're continuing to buy in, with coaches that are doing smart things and not completely screwing over the potential that we have, and not being able to take advantage of some of this extra experience they're getting with these kids to further the program.
What we don't need is from last year to have the feeling that the game was already over when the opposing team was up by double possessions, by 2 possessions or more in the second quarter. Because that's what we kind of felt like the entire last year, is that as soon as that 2-possession lead was attained by the opponent, whoever the opponent was, it just felt like there was no room for Syracuse to come back. At least towards the latter parts of the game, the latter parts of the year, in that what was the NC State game and the Notre Dame game, you actually felt like Syracuse was in that game for at least 3 quarters, until like the fatigue started to set in.
Yeah,
and that's what I think more people want to see, because when you look at the Duke game last year and the Liberty game last year and the Boston College game and the Louisville game last year, it felt like those games were over before the halftime locker room whistle sound.
Yep.
And that's the performance we can't be seeing from Syracuse.
Boston College didn't, or no, I was thinking of Wake. Never mind. All right, disregard. My brain got ahead of where I was. So
yeah, Wake took a little bit longer, but that was halfway through the third quarter.
Right. I was thinking Wake last year didn't happen. It was just 2 years ago. 2 years ago happened. This year or last year didn't happen.
A lot of things we would like to forget happened last year.
Accurate. Very accurate.
Last year's games were not great, and again, we've been over the reasons why. But I think you're all kind of hitting on the thing, and I want to use this opportunity. I don't know if Glad's going to do it this year, but if Hoya Seksa puts together his Google Sheet calculator that allows you to put in what you think the final scores of games are going to be, and then it spits out what that win percentage is, and then it gives you like the average of what the quote-unquote expected wins are based off of your projections. That's always my favorite thing. Favorite part of the season is that calculator and playing around with things. I think you're going to find out that most sane fans are going to end up with a Syracuse expected wins somewhere along the way that Vegas kind of agrees in that 3.5 to 4.5 region, because you hope that they can win on the road against Ohio, but Ohio's a good team. That's probably going to be a much closer game than anybody wants to admit. Rutgers has done a lot of good stuff. It's in Syracuse, so that's a big help, but Schiano's a damn good coach and understands what this game means for recruiting implications, so it's not going to be a cakewalk. Albany, hopefully a win. Liberty, we talked about it already. And then you're looking at a bunch of coin flips at home where Syracuse is still probably the underdog, and a bunch of coin flips on the road where the home field advantage takes it from a field goal favorite to a touchdown favorite if the ACC is its normal version of mediocre. So I think there's I think that there's going to be a lot of people who are going to agree with us. The ceiling is 7 wins. That means that the more likely expected win total is probably half of that, because half of the 50-50 games are not going to go Syracuse's way. And Steve, you brought up a great point, and I'm going to ask Christian this first. What do you feel if Syracuse goes? Is there a difference between 3-9 and 4-8? And what do you feel if Syracuse ends up in that range?
It's tough to say because, like we've said, like I've pointed out, the difference is going to be on how close those games are, and how competitive Syracuse stays in said games. Because a 3-8 with a 3-9 with a blowout loss or a close loss to Boston College. Let's say you go 3-9, but you lose to Boston College and Pittsburgh by a field goal. But maybe you go 4-8 and you get blown out by both BC and Pittsburgh. That's very different feelings. I think if you go 3-9 and then you have a ton of close games, you still feel pretty good. But if you go 4-8 and then you get blown out in every single loss, that's where I think the feeling shifts. So it's got to be about the weight of the wins as well, and not so much because I think that's where a lot of Syracuse fans are getting sidetracked as well. You're just having the flat win total is not going to be a good indication of whether Syracuse should move on from this coaching staff or not. It's got to be, how did this team look in the games?
Yeah, I think that's fair. Steve, you're making the squinty eyes. I gave you some time to think about it because normally I put you on the spot with these questions, and you hate me for it. So it gave you some time to think.
I'm used to it
gave
at
me
this
some
point.
squinty eyes. What do you think?
Possible? Yes. Positive? No. Realistically, if they pass the laugh test while doing it, 4-8 isn't the end of the world. Like Christian said, this whole season to me depends on how this team looks. Think of the 2017 year, where there were plenty of close games where you could see the pieces shifting, and like 2018 came from somewhere. And if you go back and look at 2017, there were a couple of close games where you're like, all right, this team is 4-8, but they don't 100% look like a 4-8 team. And if we can see something like that again this year, you'll still have the naysayers that are, pissed off at everything that's happening in general with the program at all times because, well, we're Syracuse, because that happens. But I think the rational and reasonable portion of the fan base, albeit, as few and far between as they can be, will be fine with a 4-8 that passes the look test as long as things are trending up.
I think that that's all really fair. And you know what the best part about this is that we get to revisit this conversation every week during the football season, because it really is going to be like a week to week. Okay, was this the A team? Was this the B team? Was the offensive line performing well enough that we can evaluate everything fairly? There's going to be a lot of questions that we won't get answered, and it's going to frustrate the heck out of people, but that makes our jobs infinitely more interesting if that's the case. So I'm looking forward to it.
Interesting is a word.
I don't know if every fan is looking. It's the choice that I've gone with. Also, did you guys see that there was breaking soccer news while we were recording for
Oh no!
Syracuse?
What happened? What happened?
Coach, they put out the release that that the Syracuse recruiting class is finished for men's soccer.
Way to
And
steal my
I've seen them,
segue.
I've seen them get announced like through the day, and there's some names out there.
Yeah, 16
There's
players.
a lot of. It's huge.
Yeah.
That's the entire team.
Yeah.
I mean, they carry about No,
What
okay, yeah, it's
happened?
most of the whole team. I don't know. COVID happened. They carry over 20. They carry usually 20, 25, 30, somewhere in there. It's another team that is non-full scholarship, so it is what it is. I don't know. Like,
There's an
there's
interesting name on here as well.
Which one?
If you haven't seen, if you scroll to the bottom, his name is Julius
Yep.
Rausch, who was a member of Borussia Dortmund's U19 and U23 teams.
Yep.
Like,
Played for
yeah,
the
that's
Dusseldorf Academy and then for Dortmund's youth teams.
that is really interesting. And we saw the last time a German played for Syracuse how well that went.
Right there.
Hi, Julian.
Oh wait, you can't see it. Never mind. I'm pointing.
We were looking at Julian and Hendrik are the last
Looking
two
at
Germans
Bono.
to play. I think are they the only two Germans to play for Syracuse? I could be wrong in that, but
In the
they're
modern
definitely
era,
the two
yes.
most successful Germans.
Yeah, in the modern era, they're the two that I remember.
Yeah.
Like since I started covering the team in 2014 or so.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, it'll be good. They have continued the Yuka Maslin Memorial Scandinavian recruit.
Yep.
With Buster Soyberg from
this
Sweden.
guy's name is amazing, Buster Soyberg. That is incredible.
And then
This
CC
guy needs to
Pagano.
This guy needs to be given the 6th jersey and put in the middle of that 352 immediately.
Then we do have our token Brampton, Ontario native in Olu Oyagunle, who, we have to have our Canadian. So, amazing there. CC Pagano from Fayetteville, Manlius, who is phenomenal. Just on the local scene, he's done some work. Another German in Giona Leibold. So we got two Germans. Another Ontarioan in Christian Curdy. Yeah, there's a bunch of names coming in. CC Camden Holbrook and Zephan Brockert Kress. Zephan Brockert Kress is already on my all name team. So yeah, they came in January, and then the rest will be reporting in the summer.
It seems like an insane amount of turnover. It also seems like the most incredibly Coach Mac class in a very long time, because there's a ton of transfers, there's a ton of academy kids, a bunch of kids from all over the country. There's a kid from Georgia. We've got some Ohio, some Indiana. Like, this is not a class that is just, here's your local Northeast talent and then a couple academy kids we swung. This is a truly all over the place class. And I'm sure the team building will be stuff of legends that Coach Mac writes about. For some goddamn reason, Pitt is a freaking ACC rival.
Yeah. I didn't notice this. CC Pagano not only named Gatorade New York State Player of the Year, but also a high school All-American by the United Soccer Association. Damn.
Yeah, he was legit. And his brother's coming next year, Nino. So, yeah, I think
that's a great opportunity
Mac's
for
doing
NIL.
Yeah, no, they're
that's a varsity sponsorship waiting to happen.
100%. Nino and
who's the first athlete that's getting sponsored by varsity?
Marek Dolishai. It can be it can be passed. There's no question there. They got to sign that yesterday.
We got to see. I haven't seen any more stuff come out since the Buddy Boeheim. I guess that's the other thing that happened this week too, was that we talked about the NIL stuff last week, Steve, a little bit, but we didn't dive too much into the Syracuse players that were getting specific deals. All we saw so far was Buddy Boeheim being the confirmed first NCAA athlete to use his name and likeness with the official school logo on a product. Definitely not necessarily intentional, but it's a good move. And then Marek Dolishai has a partnership with the same line that Syracuse that Buddy's line is with. I haven't seen any football stuff come out yet. I'm assuming that might come out closer to the season. Like Sean Tucker, Tommy DeVito are probably two players to keep an eye out on.
Yep.
And any other sport still waiting to happen. I'd be happy to give me some soccer sponsorship, guys. Like, I'm sure that there's somebody in the area who's willing to throw down to have this one of the soccer teams do something fun. But yeah, this is it's been a weird time. It's really funny too. Christian, I know that you kind of mentioned this in the Slack, but we kind of got hit with everything in 24 hours, and then it was just dead. Everything kind of ended. It was like, cool. We let the kids run social media real quick.
Yeah.
That's it. We're done with this now. On to the next thing.
Yep.
Very weird. All right, we are almost at time, and in a week where almost nothing happened, we were able to talk about football for most of the way.
Do you want to talk a little bit about what happened in basketball? Because there was a certain Syracuse alumni who helped with an upset of rather weird proportions.
Very.
Yes. One, did not know that he was playing on this team, but Michael Benege, aka Silent G, is playing competitive for professional basketball right now for the Olympic qualifiers. Specifically, he's playing for Nigeria, and if that sounds familiar, it's because Nigeria defeated the United States by 30 points in Las Vegas in an Olympic tune-up. And
was it 30 or was it?
Yeah, Michael Benege is. I think it was 30.
I thought it was like 3. Am I just misreading this so badly?
Or maybe no. It was. Sorry. It was no. It was. They won by 3. Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Damian Lillard went 12 from 30 from the field, almost exclusively taking threes. So they were effectively useless. Real Syracuse basketball energy from those 3 right there, just chucking threes with no set plays.
Yeah,
which is
for the
why
record,
Nigeria ends up defeating Team USA.
Yeah, for the record, this was a Syracuse on Syracuse crime, as Jeremy Grant is on the U.S. team. So the two of them did overlap for a year, I believe.
Well, that was when Benege was sitting due to his transfer rules, right?
I think that sounds right.
I believe so.
Ish. That whole area is fuzzy to me.
Yeah.
Most areas are fuzzy to me. So
was Jeremy on the team? Was Jeremy on the Ennis team?
Yes, Jeremy was on the Ennis team.
Okay, so then they played in 2013-14.
Yeah.
Yeah, Grant was here till 14.
Jeremy Grant.
Benege would have gotten here in. Timelines.
It's almost as confusing as the Marvel ones.
No.
The truth.
It wasn't a segue.
Yes, because Benege got here in 13.
That wasn't a Syracuse. Yeah, there we go. So you were right, Christian. It absolutely great accomplishment for Benege. The sad part is that I forget who was talking about it in the Slack, but it doesn't look like Michael Benege is probably going to feature much for the Nigeria team, which is rather unfortunate. There's a bunch of Miami Heat players on that team, so understandably, I think that's probably part of it. But it's cool to have that moment kind of etched in history, and Michael Benege can carry that around when he eventually signs up for the TBT team, because that is definitively going to be what they put on the Michael Benege player card. This guy was part of the team in Nigeria, the Nigerian team that beat Team USA. And speaking of TBT, this is going to be crazy, you guys. TBT starts this weekend. Syracuse does not start this weekend, but the Wichita Regional starts on July 16th. The West Virginia Regional starts on July 17th. And then in Syracuse is part of the Illinois Regional, which takes place in 2 weeks. But we will start seeing some TBT action take place this week, which means that we will start to hear all the broadcasters talk about how big of a threat Boeheim's Army is on that side of the bracket. We'll start to hear all the hypothetical things. Steve and I have been over this many times that we know absolutely nothing. We should not project anything. But in 2 weeks from now, we will attempt to do so as the tournament kicks off. But I want to put that on everybody's radar because July is somehow almost over, and it went by way too quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go TBT.
Now, to continue our tradition of horrible segues, we do have a bracket happening right now. TBT isn't happening till next weekend, but currently the not-so-secret wars are ongoing at Nunes.
Yes, they are. It's our Marvel comic bracket that gets voted on like it's the MCU. but it's always a fun time.
Oh yeah, it's always a good time. So it's always good. I'll be updating weekly or nightly pretty much. I already have everything, pre-pulled and pre-written. I just need to chuck in upsets. But yeah, it's going pretty chalk at present. So we'll see how this ends up towards the end. It looks like Groot as a 13 seed is knocking off Adam Warlock, which hurts me.
Yes.
And
that's not surprising.
Beta Ray Bill somehow is not knocking off Star-Lord. So
Beta Ray Bill needs to get introduced in Thor: Love and Thunder, and I think that'll change everything.
100%. So
yeah, I don't know if it's going to happen, but it would be nice.
It better happen.
Yeah, this is going to be Marvel Week. This is going to be Marvel Week around the show. As you can tell, there's not a ton happening Syracuse-wise. So we're going to take this week to talk about the Black Widow movie, which just came out on Friday, Loki season finale, which is coming out on Wednesday, and Marvel What If trailer dropped. I don't believe Marvel What If starts until the end of this month.
August 11th,
but
I believe.
it looked really cool, and it seems like, so middle August, so we got a while for that. But that looks really fun, really different, and I think it's going to be plenty exciting. So we will have lots to talk about this week on the site. I know Christian has already given his thoughts on the Black Widow movie in our Marvel discussion, which will be going up. I think John's going to write the Black Widow piece tomorrow. So you can read Christian's thoughts on Black Widow. You can read Steve and my thoughts as well. We have to go in and add ours. But I do, real quick, no spoilers here, 2-sentence review of Black Widow. Christian, go.
Could have been better. Disappointed with some of the characters. It does tie up and set up the two main characters very well.
If
more positive than Christian seemed to be, but not top tier. Overall, will watch again with my wife because she didn't see it.
So for Steve, it's required to watch again.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm probably going to watch it again with my wife, who, when I explained it to her, she found it interesting, and I explained it as a relatively grounded action movie that takes a somewhat problematic comic book premise and backstory and doesn't necessarily clean it up, but does so in a way that at least makes the characters interesting enough to survive in the Marvel Universe. So there's our 2-sentence Black Widow reviews. We will be doing these more in depth on the site. So if you haven't already, go on to Disney Plus or steal your friend's Disney Plus login and watch the movie so you can read this wonderful article that we'll have.
Or read it, get pissed off at us, and then not realize you didn't have a spoiler alert.
Yeah, you could read it and be spoiled by the movie if that's your jam. I don't necessarily think that's the way most people like
just
to
do
enjoy movies,
the
but
Asian
here you
thing.
go.
The Asian thing is just read the Wikipedia synopsis while the movie's going on.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Can't wait for that. This is going to be the best opportunity for me to talk about Shang-Chi at some point in time with all of you. Cannot wait till that happens.
I am very excited for that movie.
But
Confirmed.
Christian, you and I are going to take over a podcast doing that because I am so hyped right now.
Yeah.
I have so many things to talk about with that. But we're at time.
Am I chopped liver?
We've reached the end of
Do
another
I not
show.
get to talk about this? I too want to see this movie.
You already have your own. You have your own Marvel podcast to talk these things out on.
Fair.
That everybody should go listen to, the Multiverse Report, available on all podcast platforms that I listen on Spotify, but you can listen pretty much anywhere else.
There you go. Appreciate the plug.
See, it's a great ad read right there.
And I'm not even paying you.
But we are going to leave because I would like to go watch the U.S. play in the Gold Cup. Steve would like to watch the U.S. play in the Gold Cup and record another episode of the Multiverse Report. Christian's going to go watch the Gold Cup and prepare to do some baseball stuff because Christian is living our dreams and doing minor league baseball life. So we were very happy that you chose to spend an hour with us as we got to just talk about Syracuse sports for another hour. And if you're watching live on YouTube, thank you. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, tell all your friends about it, ring the bell to get notified when we go live next week at this time-ish. And if you're watching on Monday, thanks for coming to NunesMagician.com. Thanks for reading our articles. You can always comment. Steve, Christian, and I are pretty much always lurking, ready to have a conversation with you. And we'll be putting out more great content all week long, some of it Marvel-related, some of it not. And we look forward to seeing you then. So, thank you, and go Orange.
Go Orange.